Hello everyone, Michael here for Tactica Imperialis with a Warhammer Fantasy Battles video. Today I want to talk Fantasy 9th. Love it or hate it, it's coming. So I've just had a bit of a think about it and I've got a little bit of a wish list. Things I would like to see in Fantasy 9th. A few things I don't want to see as well. So I want to talk about it, just put my opinion out there. Obviously if you have your own opinions then feel free to let me know in the comment section below whether you agree with me, whether you disagree with me. That's entirely up to you. So what is the main thing that I don't want to see in Fantasy 9th? Let's get that out of the way. I really do not want to see a skirmish. I don't. Skirmish games, you might think, are a really good way of getting new blood into the hobby because you don't need many models to play the game. And you're right. But let's say you are not a new player. Let's say you're a veteran. I'm hardly a veteran, but you've been playing for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and you've amassed this huge collection of stuff, and you want to use it. Whether the models actually fit within the rule set, I don't know, but let's say you just want to count as your way in, just to try the rules out. And now you're playing a skirmish game. Right. Yeah. That, to me, is not a good thing. I want the chance to do huge games. I want the chance to be able to unleash my dragon, which is sat over there, once again. And if I'm playing a skirmish, that is never going to happen. So, I don't want to see a skirmish game, but on the other hand, I do want to see the game have its scale widened a little bit, mainly downwards, because if you have played Fantasy pretty much at all, you know the game works best from 2,000 points upwards. That's when the game really starts to shine. At 1,000, 1,500 points, you can make it work. Below that, no chance. You can't play it. It is just unmanageable. And if you're a new player who wants to come in and start the hobby and say, oh my goodness me, there's a brand new game, I want to try it. So you talk to the man in the store and say, can I play test this game? Can I have a go just so I can learn it? Maybe I'll buy it later. And the man says, yes, let's get the game out and let's have a go. And okay, so here's what we've got. We've got this starter box, and it's about 500 points each. Is that okay? Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I'll play that. And it sucks at 500 points. It just doesn't work. It's not optimized for it. And then your new player, who may or may not have won and lost, will walk out saying, oh, that wasn't very good. I didn't like that, so I'm not going to buy it. That can't happen. I mean, if you are a veteran player who can bring an army along and say, yeah, can we play 3K? I don't care if it takes a few hours. I want to really experience this game. And it might work fantastically. And the guy will go, okay, yeah, that's great. Great. Love it. I'm buying it. Fantastic. But that doesn't get any new blood in. That just refreshes the old people back through. It's kind of like me. I would want to try this game at 2K points because that's what I'm used to. So the game needs to be optimized for lower size games. From 500 points upwards, the game needs to work. Whether it's through a separate side mission, which might be a skirmish, kind of like Kill Team for 40k, okay, fine. But from 1,000 points upwards, the game needs to work. Otherwise, people who are just starting out will have to buy a metric ton of stuff just to play the game. And that's not good. But on the other hand, they should not take this dragging down to make it more accessible to mean get rid of the epicness at the top. No, the game still needs to function at big games. And that, I think, is my worry, is that they'll either optimize it for new players by either going smaller games are better, or going skirmish, which still worries me, or they will ignore the new players and say, right, we want this game to be big and bold and epic. And that's great, until you realize that nobody's going to buy into it if they're new. And even if you're an old player, unless your counters really is good, it's still not going to work. So the game should balance both the new and the old, because it's dealing with an entirely new audience as well as an existing one. So it needs to be able to do big games, by which I mean 3-4K. But it needs to be able to cater to 500 points if it can, 1K definitely. Otherwise, it's just not going to work for everybody. And it still won't work for everybody. Some people will complain about the fact that such a mechanic got removed or such a thing got changed. That's kind of the fact of it. But it needs to work for as many people as possible, and that means it needs to work across a wide spectrum of points costs. Next thing I really want to see, this is probably my biggest desire, is the lore. The lore needs to be immersive and deep. It needs to get us as a readership who are learning about this new world for the very first time hooked. Sometimes playing a game is great for you to really think, oh, I love it. Sometimes, if you're like me, I will read through an army book and I'll think, I love the story of this guy, or this unit's background really works for me. Even if that unit is suboptimal, and that might convince you to run an army based around that unit. That might be all it takes, is a really good piece of lore. So I really hope the lore is good. It's fleshed out. It talks about how this world comes to be, maybe, and it gives a detailed background on however many factions they bring in. But this is probably going to sound weird. I want to keep the old spirit of fantasy alive in the lore and on the tabletop. On the tabletop, you just need to be able to do big games and have massive, crazy fun stuff with magic and monsters and melee. Great, that's doable. But from a lore perspective, I'd love to see some little Easter eggs from GW just scattered through. So perhaps there are two human factions who don't get on and had a falling out in the manner of a couple of elect accounts in the Empire who dueled across a river, and I think the loser's hand got washed down river or something. I'm not up on my Empire lore, but I would love to see little Easter eggs like that to a new player will mean absolutely nothing at all. Or will just think, oh wow, that was really, really cool. But to the old player, they'll go, oh, yeah, that's cool. I like that. I like that little nod to the past. Because sometimes nostalgia is a good thing. So I'd really like to see a little bit of tie back, lore-wise, to the old world. Be it through politicking in the elven systems. Be it through, I don't know, some elvish, dwarvish rivalry that seems to be present a lot in fantasy genre generally. But having, I don't know, an elven prince who cut off a dwarf prince's beard as a sort of offence. As an elven player, I would get that and I would just smile at the nod to the War of the Beard. I'd love that. So I'd like to see little Easter eggs interspersed through to make the game, to make old players feel a little bit nostalgic as well. I'd like to see them support 8th. I don't expect it to happen, but a little bit of support for 8th. Not in models, maybe just a couple of FAQs or erratas every now and then, just to keep us topped up, so to speak. Because people will still play 8th. People who don't like 9th or fall out of love with 9th will go back to playing 8th. I know I will. I'll still play 8th, even if I do buy 9th. So I'd like to see a little bit of support for it. It's unlikely, but maybe. Finally, I would really like the mechanics to be difficult. Not as in blow your mind, it's too complicated, I can't do it difficult. But I'd like to see it to be tricky to master. Obviously, it's a new gaming system. Everybody is coming at it blind. Nobody knows what's coming. And that means we're all going to have to learn a new set of rules. So they need to be easy for us to learn so as we can get into and enjoy the game. But, kind of like with Fantasy now, I would like it to be tricky to become an absolute beast at. You know in your movement phases how careful your positioning and ranking is. What moves first, when things reform, how far charge distance you are. All that sort of thing is critically important and can win and lose you the game. Whether to commit to an extra power dice that might cause irresistible force. You just need to do that. And I think that's a really important thing. It needs to be easy to learn, hard to master. So that is my primary wish list for Warhammer Fantasy Battles 9th edition, or whatever they end up calling it. I really don't want a skirmish, but I like to see it accessible to new players with smaller point games whilst still having the epic scale that we love, a deep immersive lore, and a game that we can learn easily, but we may struggle to master, because then you can prove your skill by winning games using your tactical nous, and that really appeals to me as much as the narrative does. So that is my thoughts on Warhammer Fantasy 9th. That is my wish list. When Fantasy 9th Rumour starts coming out and we get a bit more concrete info, of course, I will bring it to you in a News and Rumours video. But for now, this is Michael for Tactica Imperialis signing off. I will see you all again.